but they just didn't want to come along.
So you never experienced him trying to raise you up?
No, he never talked about that with me.
The damage was already carved so deep that no patching, no apology, and no compromise could ever bring reconciliation. This wasn't one of Kody Brown's usual flare-ups where he slammed a door or performed a tantrum for the cameras. No, this time his rage wasn't staged. Insiders from the sister wives' set whispered that the very moment the $610,000 payout cleared, something inside Kody shattered. A source described it bluntly. It was like watching a man implode. He had already sold the family's prized Coyote Pass land for $1, $5 million, a headline on its own. But what the audience never saw was the storm ripping behind the scenes. Kody's fury wasn't loud. It was cold, corrosive, and eating him alive. Splitting over half of that cash between the two women he had once painted as traitors burned deeper than anyone imagined. And in the middle of that tension, Janelle, calm as ever, allegedly turned to a producer and dropped one single dagger of a line. "Karma, baby." The phrase sent shockwaves through TLC Nation. On paper, Kody looked magnanimous. He cut checks of $35,000 each to Janelle and Mary, handing them their share of the Coyote Pass proceeds, with what looked like uncharacteristic grace. For a moment, fans actually wondered, was this a new Kody? Had he finally let go of bitterness and embraced humility? But when the money landed and the air grew quiet, rumors began circling like vultures over a carcass. Sources close to the family insisted Kody didn't blow up because of the dollar amount. He blew up because of what that money symbolized. To him, it wasn't just cash. It was decades of sacrifice, years of manipulation, and most painfully, the death of his grand vision. Coyote Pass was never just dirt in Arizona. It was supposed to be the Brown family's crown jewel, the great compound, the eternal legacy. And now, he had handed 2/3 of that dream to women who no longer bore his name. Why would a man who clung so fiercely to that dream suddenly give so much away? Some called it damage control, a PR stunt to keep his image intact. Others whispered that his hand had been forced. Allegedly, Janelle had quietly explored legal avenues. Mary, too, reportedly holding emails, texts, maybe even paperwork that could have blown everything open in court. The optics of dragging two ex-wives, mothers of his children, through a land battle while cameras rolled would have destroyed him. He knew it. And so he folded, but not with grace, only with desperation. But the irony? That money didn't just close a chapter, it opened a new one. The payout gave Janelle and Mary something Kody had spent years trying to deny them: power. Janelle's calm wasn't cruelty, it was closure. She had finally taken something tangible from the years of empty promises, and she didn't have to raise her voice to get it. That silence was louder than any fight. And Robyn, watching from the sidelines, noticed it immediately. He wasn't angry, one insider said. He was humiliated. And humiliation was only the beginning. Coyote Pass wasn't just split, it was rewritten. The dream itself unraveled. The so-called dream compound, the fantasy Kody preached about on whiteboards and in monologues, was supposed to be the family's final chapter, etched into Arizona's red soil. He had imagined floor plans, drawn invisible boundaries, promised unity, all while holding 97% ownership in his own name. That number, 97%, was the quiet confession of how things truly worked. He owned, they obeyed. The wives were offered sketches and sweet words, while he controlled the paperwork. Now, years later, that same man had given away over $600,000 of what he claimed as his personal vision. And worse, he didn't lose it to outsiders. He lost it to Janelle and Mary, two women he believed were supposed to stay sidelined. No wonder he allegedly erupted when the cameras turned off. Because the truth was, Coyote Pass never belonged to the family. It belonged to him. The women had paid, contributed, sacrificed, and waited, but they were never given keys to the kingdom. Janelle, especially, had fought. She even parked an RV on the land, desperate to move the dream forward, living rough while waiting for progress that never came. Instead, she got excuses, she got delays, she got silence. Meanwhile, Robyn lived comfortably in her rented house, insulated and untouchable, while Kody wavered between guilt and control. So when the land finally sold, insiders say Janelle didn't just feel relief, she felt vindicated. Her years of pushing, sacrificing, and being ignored finally turned into something real. She hadn't screamed, she hadn't begged, she had simply waited for the system Kody built to collapse under its own weight. Behind the curtain, Janelle and Mary had begun consulting attorneys, asking the quiet but dangerous question: could they challenge the ownership? Could years of money, labor, and sacrifice finally be translated into their rightful share? That question alone was enough to scare Kody. He knew if it came to court, the skeletons would spill, the public sympathy would vanish, and his empire would crumble. So he acted quickly, masking fear as generosity, spinning desperation as grace. But beneath the spin lay bitterness. That land wasn't just property. It was memory, illusion, power. Watching it sold, watching those women cash checks with calm smiles, broke something deeper than pride. It stripped Kody of the one illusion he had left, that he was still in control. And then, as if to twist the knife, Janelle didn't stop. There, she bought new land, in her name alone. No Kody, no shared title, no approval, just hers. That single move spoke volumes. She wasn't waiting for Kody anymore. She was building without him, literally and figuratively. According to Real Estate Whispers, her property sits just outside Flagstaff, close enough for family but far enough to draw her own boundaries. The message was clear: I don't need you. Not for land, not for legacy, not for my future. And if you think that didn't sting Kody more than losing $610,000, you'd be mistaken. The man who once believed he could dictate every move, every home, every dream, now stood watching as Janelle carved her own future. And he wasn't invited.
Communicating with me, loving me.
And negotiating with you.
Yes, and respecting herself, okay?
Insiders say that's when Kody's frustrations, simmering for months, finally erupted in a way no one could ignore. It wasn't about the land itself, and it wasn't even about the $600,000 payout. It was about losing the one thing he valued most: control. For decades, Kody had been the architect of every major family decision. He decided who lived where, who sacrificed what, and how the family's resources were divided. But suddenly, two women he once dismissed, Janelle and Mary, were cashing out in public and quietly planting roots in private without his permission. That shift rattled him to his core. One crew member whispered that after the sale closed, Kody stormed into a room and launched into what could only be described as a monologue of rage. He ranted that the women were ungrateful, that he had been too generous, that Robyn was the only one who truly supported him. It all came pouring out: anger, humiliation, regret, years of bottled emotions spilling onto the floor. But the outburst didn't win him sympathy. Instead, it only made things worse. Almost immediately after, Mary posted a cryptic quote online about choosing peace over pretending, and the timing spoke volumes. Then came Janelle's now legendary moment. During an off-camera conversation, she reportedly took a slow sip of coffee, smiled ever so slightly, and whispered, "Karma, baby." It wasn't bragging, it wasn't cruel, it was calm, graceful, and devastatingly sharp. To Kody, that small phrase cut deeper than any insult could. He believed the land sale would be his redemption arc, his victory lap. Instead, it became a public, cautionary tale, one where he was no longer the hero, but the punchline. And as this was unfolding, Robyn watched in silence. According to a family confidant, she tried to soothe him behind the scenes, telling him to let go of the money and focus on what remained. But even Robyn, ever the loyal defender, couldn't hide her anxiety. The land had been her dream too. She imagined a sprawling estate where her children's children could grow up together. With the sale finalized, that dream disintegrated. She thought they'd build there, one source said softly. Now there's nothing left to build. Yet the deeper story wasn't about what was lost. It was about how far Kody was willing to go to claw back control. Allegedly, he began exploring ways to reopen old financial claims, searching for loopholes to reclaim what he called losses tied to the original Coyote Pass purchase. But the more he dug, the more receipts started to surface, and not in his favor. Whispers began circulating that some of the numbers in those records didn't add up. And those whispers spread quickly, because behind the scenes, the women had their own proof. Sources allege that when Coyote Pass was first purchased, it wasn't just Kody's money on the table. Janelle reportedly dipped into her personal accounts. Mary allegedly pulled from her own savings. Even Christine, who, remember, didn't receive a penny from the eventual sale, was rumored to have contributed back when the family still spoke in we instead of me. So when Kody tried to paint himself as the sole benefactor, the one man sacrificing for the dream, a very different picture began to emerge. One where the women's financial contributions had been significant, real, and long ignored. And here's where it gets even more dangerous for him. Janelle, practical as ever, had quietly built a paper trail over the years. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't meant for battle. It was just the kind of everyday record a woman creates. Bank statements, PayPal transfers, old text confirmations. She wasn't planning to take him to court, one insider explained, but she wanted to be ready if he pulled something shady. Now, with Kody reportedly fuming and pulling out his calculator, those quiet records could become either her shield or her sword. And if even half the whispers about them are true, Kody's narrative as the family's grand provider could crumble in an instant. Meanwhile, Mary's stance has shifted in its own powerful way. Once hesitant, caught between half in and half out, she's now stepping into her independence. Her social media presence has grown louder, more confident, punctuated with subtle jabs that seasoned fans quickly decode. Her latest cryptic quote about returning to yourself after decades of being erased wasn't just coincidence. In this family, timing is never just timing. And while Mary hasn't taken to the press, insiders claim she's been in steady contact with Christine and Janelle. That private group chat, they say, is less about grandbabies and family dinners and more about solidarity, strategy, and reclaiming their voices. As for Kody, the cracks are showing on set. Sources familiar with the current shoot claim he's been snapping at crew members, pushing back on storylines, and demanding certain topics be kept off camera. He feels ganged up on, one insider revealed. He knows he's losing control of the narrative, and that's eating him alive. For years, he was able to dictate the family's image, shaping how viewers saw their story. But now, with Janelle holding quiet receipts, Mary reclaiming her confidence, and Christine watching like a hawk from the sidelines, that image is crumbling right before his eyes. And Robyn, the so-called favorite wife, isn't as composed as she looks. Publicly, she smiled through the storm. Privately, insiders insist she was devastated. She wasn't just upset about the payout, she was furious about being left out of the decision-making. One family source whispered that she was blindsided by how much money Kody promised without consulting her. She thought they'd go over everything together, the insider said. By the time she realized, it was already done. That betrayal stung, and the tension didn't stay private. Crew members allegedly caught a hot mic during filming where Robyn and Kody argued over whether he'd been manipulated into the payout or if he'd done it for good optics. The leaked line, "We needed that money for our future, not their fresh starts." That one sentence alone set off a storm of speculation. Because if Robyn feels betrayed, if she believes Kody sacrificed their future for a PR move, what happens to her loyalty, her influence, her ability to keep Kody's already fractured image intact? Meanwhile, TLC producers are thrilled. With the land gone and money at the center, the show has stumbled into a brand new battleground. Once it was about time and affection. Now it's about ledgers, receipts, and real estate deeds. It's like Succession, but with prairie skirts, one crew member allegedly joked. And while the cameras roll, Christine is quietly watching from the outside. She may have walked away from Coyote Pass with nothing, but she has what the others don't: freedom. A new husband, a new home, and a new life completely detached from the wreckage. Insiders claim she's become Janelle and Mary's sounding board, and there's even talk that the three have joked about writing a book together. Not a tell-all, but a survival guide. How to leave, how to rebuild, how to reclaim your name. The image of those three women aligned while Kody fumes and Robyn Simmers is one fans can't stop cheering for. Social media is ablaze. Janelle's independence is celebrated. Robyn's complaints are met with rolling eyes, and curiosity is spreading like wildfire. If the land sale ended with $600,000 walking out the door, what else has been hidden? Because whispers suggest this isn't the end. It's only the surface. Rumors say early loan arrangements, under-the-table deals, and hush-hush financial secrets are still buried deep. And if those ever see the light of day, Kody's carefully controlled story won't just crack, it will
You know, I don't want to be sexist here, but why does a guy have to sleep on the couch? It's his room, too.
Some parts of Kody's fortune came from show bonuses, others from so-called joint accounts that weren't as joint as he liked to claim. With the financial spotlight now glaring, those hidden arrangements are beginning to look like ticking time bombs. Insiders warn that if Janelle ever decides to go public, there are receipts, emails, bank transfers, undeniable proof that could shatter Kody's carefully built image. And fans have noticed. Social media has turned into a detective agency, digging through old footage, lining it up with public records, even analyzing background audio from past episodes where Kody's story didn't quite match his wife's. The growing theory? Kody never planned on sharing the profits until legal and reputational pressure forced his hand. What finally pushed him wasn't just Janelle's quiet warning of legal action or Mary's rising frustration. It was Christine's absence. She walked away before the Coyote Pass land sold, which meant she never saw a dime. And sources say Kody can't stop bringing her up, telling Robyn he wishes he had handled things differently. But Christine didn't stay. She left. She thrived, and she proved life without him was not only possible but better. Now Mary, once the most hesitant, has taken control of her bed and breakfast empire with $35,000 in her pocket and a fresh burst of confidence. Fans are calling it the Mary era, and she's embracing it with bold posts, new energy, and zero apologies. As one family friend put it, she stopped chasing validation. She found peace. For Kody, though, the payout that once looked like a fair compromise now feels like a collapse of control. The land is gone, the money is gone, the unity is gone, and even Robyn, his closest ally, is looking more shaken than secure. Whispers in Flagstaff suggest he's exploring ways to legally frame the payout as a mistake, even consulting lawyers to see if he was misled. But Janelle and Mary are no longer afraid to push back. They've reclaimed something Kody can't: narrative control. Janelle, calm and steady, never ranted or pointed fingers. Her simple karma line spoke volumes. Mary's posts are equally powerful, not bitter, just buzzing with freedom. Christine, glowing in her remarried life, has become the unofficial mascot for Sister Wives fans, the woman who saw the storm coming and left before it hit. Meanwhile, Kody and Robyn are quietly unraveling. The Coyote Pass payout was more than financial, it was symbolic. The once queen of the castle now looks powerless in a crumbling empire. Online, fans bluntly put it, Kody gave away the land, and with it, his last shred of control. Robyn, usually emotional and outspoken, has been noticeably silent. Insiders claim she broke down during a recent confessional, admitting, "I thought that land would bring us back together." Instead, it sealed their split. And while Robyn focuses on quiet damage control, sympathy is in short supply. Comment sections are overflowing with praise for the ex-wives, while fans roll their eyes at Kody and Robyn's attempts to play victims. Behind the cameras, producers face a balancing act. Kody demanding protection in the edit, while the raw footage shows a man watching his empire slip away. His private confessional after the land sale was described as heartbreaking, less leader, more man in crisis. And yet, the show must go on. This season is unlike any before. No weddings, no new babies, no staged holiday cheer. Just endings, reckonings, and women stepping fully into their power. But the saga isn't finished. Insiders reveal Janelle is considering a book deal. Her full story, unfiltered, covering the land deals, the marriage, and her final break. One publishing contact claims it could outsell Christine's wedding special. And she may not write it alone. Rumors swirl of a joint project with Mary and Christine, a survival blueprint, not revenge, but revelation. If that happens, Kody's carefully crafted image may collapse completely. Because while he's long tried to frame himself as misunderstood, the women's voices carry something he's lost: relatability. Christine's remarriage, Janelle's new independence, Mary's fearless posts, they've found peace. Real peace. No more fighting for scraps of Kody's time. No more begging for affection. They walked away richer, freer, and stronger. Kody, meanwhile, is left with regret, dwindling influence, and a haunting reminder: you can't buy loyalty forever. And now, in a twist few expected, whispers say Kody is pitching a new business idea: a men's empowerment retreat, a place to help divorced men rebuild their lives. The irony is brutal. Fans laugh at the thought of Kody teaching leadership when his own family has collapsed. Whose family does he still lead? One former crew member quipped. Online, the scoreboard is clear. The women are thriving. Kody is flailing. Side-by-side photos show Janelle smiling on her land while Kody looks broken in confessionals. Memes, threads, and commentary all point to one truth: the shift is permanent. Kody's no longer the center. He's the cautionary tale at the edge. What started as a land sale has become a revolution. The women reclaim their worth, their freedom, their future, quietly, powerfully. And Kody? He's left scheming, still trying to rewrite a story that has already moved on without him. So, the question remains, does he regret the land or the control? And if Janelle, Mary, and Christine finally tell all, would you read it?